Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and today we are discussing a 1988 movie by Wes Craven, allegedly based on true events, starring Bill Pullman. This is The Serpent and the Rainbow, based in Haiti, and it's the story of one guy and his adventures with voodoo in this film. So we will go around this cast here for opening thoughts. Tim, opening thoughts from Serpent and the Rainbow.
Well, I recall seeing this in theaters back in the day, which would have been a very long time ago. But when I started to watch it, I couldn't remember much of it. So it's funny. I've seen it before, but then I was watching it again. I was like, I remember the hand coming out of the little little skeleton kid. I remembered that part, but that's about all I could recall of it. But it's a good movie. It's a very original idea.
Yeah.
The practical effects are actually very good for the time. This is years before CGI, of course. The story is pretty interesting. The the denouement at the end of it is kind of silly, but I mean, it's that kind of movie. It's okay. It's a little over the top, but it's okay. The effects are good though. But yeah, overall, it's an entertaining film. It's just it's very oddball. I mean, you hadn't seen anything like this at the time. I don't think it's a very good idea for a story that this guy, he's, in other words, he's a doctor, or what is he? He's some kind of pharmacologist or something, and he's looking for this drug that'll put you to sleep or make you appear dead, and then you wake up later, which is a pretty sad thing to do to somebody. And it happens to him at some point. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty entertaining movie. I really can't think of anything negative to say about it. It was a pretty good movie of its time.
Thank you, Tim. Let's go over to Susan.
All right.
Your opening on the movie.
Okay. Well, I like Tim saw it earlier in the theater, and then I saw it as part of film school, and it is utterly magnificent. I mean, I think that it's just incredibly freaky, and it has an amazing cast, and I mean it is I mean the actors just chew the scenery every chance they get. It's like uh rage and control and master and servant and all of this stuff all wrapped up in one. it's it's a power structure struggle. I
Ball
mean,
busting.
yeah, it's a power struggle, and it's Haiti, and it's voodoo, and it's Santeria, and all of these mixture of different, you know, ethnic religions, and and then there's this sort of uh, there's a biochemical company that is interested in all of this stuff, and so that's really neat. And it's got Bill Pullman, who was in Torchwood for the British fans, and it's got Michael Goff in it, who
He'd
is
probably help you forget about that.
But yeah, I think he would forget about that.
all right. And Michael Goff was in the Celestial Toymaker, and he's just an amazing actor, and yeah, so capturing him was like, oh, amazing. And then there was Conrad Roberts, who played Christoph, and I can't say enough good things about him. And I'll talk about my other favorite one, but it kind of went from a liquid to a frog to a powder. It had all these different forms, and then it ended up being part of the blood. and there's a blood. Anyway, back over to you, Lee.
Thank you, Susan. Who should we go to next? Should we go to Pegleg? Let's go to Pegleg. Over to Ethan.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't think if I've heard about this film, but I don't think I've ever seen this. I've never seen this film. I probably heard of it. I've never read the book, and it's funny because I love Wes Craven. Wes Craven. And it's got quite a few of his hallmarks in this. Like some of the effects were very Nightmare on Elm Street at the end. For that time, I enjoyed that final showdown with some of the effects in that. That were quite good. But yeah, I always liked the whole voodoo background and religion. I'm always quite interested in some of that story. And it's great seeing the whole culture and religion of that world and all that. And yeah, you've got a great cast in it. A very young Bill Pullman, Kathy Tyson, who's I remember her from one of my favorite movies, Mona Lisa.
Oh yeah,
one of my favorite movies of all time. And Michael Goff, as we've said, and what's his name? Who was Paul Winfield? Is it?
Yeah.
He's been in loads of 80s movies that I remembered as a kid. And Zeke Mocha, who played, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who played the villain. He was great. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. There's it's a good story. It's a really good original story. There was some of it that kind of I think at the start, when you see the guy with the top hat and they have the makeup, it gave me vibes of Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
Which, great James Bond film. And again,
Baron Sedemy or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. You see him on the train and you don't know if he's alive or dead. Yeah. But I like that. So that was about voodoo as well. I like it when they do stories like that because it has a very creepy style to it. And I found this quite creepy. There were some of the effects which were pretty creepy, like the sort of dead bride or woman in the gown with the skeleton, the snake that comes out of her mouth. And I'll tell you, that was probably one of the most brutal torture scenes I've ever watched. And here I thought Daniel Craig getting whipped in the balls was bad. And I watched this and I was thinking, where's this going? And I got vibes of James Bond as well, again, but 10 times worse. And I thought, where's this going? And then I saw the nail. I thought, no, he's not gonna. Wow, for that time, they really went far with this. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was interesting with the whole zombies and stuff, how instead of your brain-eating zombies and stuff like that, it's the more voodoo zombies, which is an interesting change. It's always an interesting change when they take that story. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this film, actually. It was a good choice. It was something different. Hadn't seen it. And I like a good 80s horror voodoo movie. So yeah.
There's that many about, isn't there, Ethan?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ethan. Now we will go over to Jake.
Right, I'm going to disagree with the rest of the people that talked about this film. I felt for the first hour of this film, it dragged horrendously. I haven't been so bored watching a film in a very long time. And when I expect to see a voodoo film, I expect it to be chock-block full of voodoo, not literally all shoved into the last 44 minutes of the film. Don't get me wrong, the film was at its peak in the last 44 minutes of the film, where you're seeing all the rituals and everything. I could not stand the main actor in this film. I thought he's just a stereotypical horror main character. He's there looking for something, he finds something goes wrong, and it's a bit, I've seen that sort of trope before. Lots of other stuff have handled voodoo much better than this film did. I like the effects. Now, I agree with what Ethan said. There's lots of Wes Craven-y stuff in there, but sometimes I felt like it's just been cut out of Nightmare on Elm Street and slapped in this film. That's honestly what I felt for some of it, especially when they're running down the corridor. It's not what I was told it was going to be, if that makes sense. I was expecting it to be something that, from what like my mum and other people that watched it have said, it's going to be this really great voodoo film that's been banned apparently. And I'm like, I don't get how it was banned. Why was it banned? I was literally nearly falling asleep in the first hour of it. Is that why it was banned? Because it was so fucking boring? I'm like, but yeah, I won't like talk shit about people who like it, because it was someone who likes voodoo. I was expecting it to be a lot more voodoo than it is. And it's quite funny, Ethan talking about the bloke in the top hat who looked like a skeleton man. I recently finished my season 3 American Horror Story rewatch, and I thought it was Papa Legba, and I was like, why? He's just been an American Horror Story. Why is he in there? Both about voodoo, and that handled voodoo much better than this film did. That's another conversation for another day. But I'll get on to my favourite moments when the time comes.
You know, he did that in one breath. He didn't take a break there.
Something tells me he didn't like it.
Everybody, everybody doesn't have to like a movie what we do. To me, it's news to me that it was, but I don't think it was banned, to be honest. So I remember in my younger days going down to the video shop and renting this out for a Friday night, and that's where I discovered this movie. So I sort of agree and disagree with all of you. I sort of agree with Jake, then I sort of disagree with Jake. I agree with Ethan. It does drag in places, but to me, it's about the voodoo, but it's a film about getting hold of this powder, this drug, which allegedly does exist, because there has been reports of people what allegedly have died, and they are walking around in Haiti and stuff like that, because of it's all about gangland, power struggle, political and all like that. And this is a movie. This is a political movie as well. It was the uprising of it was the revolution set in, was it 1985, 6, something like that?
1985.
Yeah, it was when the government was brought down. I liked it. I mean, I did like it. I mean, you can't have voodoo right from the beginning. You've got it's subtly done. The controlling these people. I mean, the way that they controlled the Kathy Tyson's character dancing away, that was possession. It was all like that. That was just brilliantly done. So I enjoyed this, and as I say, the torture scenes, I think one of my favourite torture scenes ever. All he wanted to do was hear him scream. So, but he knew what he was doing. There was no permanent damage. So yeah, it's very atmospheric. It's really well shot, and yeah, I get what you're saying about the Wes Craven little things there. You can tell it's his movie, and I do agree with Tim about the ending. From the movie, what it was, it sort of switched to a typical Wes Craven movie. At the beginning, it's not. It is a story what sort of gets you involved, and you're thinking, what's going on here? It's political. He's after this drug, and all of a sudden, it's a horror at the end. But it was a fun watch. I hadn't seen this one for a while, so we'll go to favourite moments and things what you didn't like. Shall we go to Jake? Let's go to Jake.
The thing I did really like in it is the person of the people of colour actors in this film. I thought they were all phenomenal in this film. They're all great, especially the villain. I loved the villain in this film because he's a stereotypical insane person. His eyes are wild, his mouth is always crazy, like opening and he's talking. I think he was great. I thought he was such a threatening character, and I adored all the police stuff because that actually happened in that country at that time. And I think that was really well handled, just not necessarily the voodoo, which is something I didn't like, as I said earlier. But favourite scene-wise, I've been sitting here struggling, trying to think of what my favourite moment is. I did like the ending, like Ethan did, but it was a little bit cheesy, wasn't it? And like Lee said, did go a bit, this is a Wes Craven film, woo, he's going to explode into flames. Because, yeah, that really happens in real life, didn't it? Like, It just, yeah. But I like a bit where they're doing the whole ritual and they're cutting that bloke's head off. That's very voodoo in certain parts of the world. I thought that aired it quite well. I like that. Yeah, that's my favourite moments.
Cool, cool. Tim.
Well, what I would say was I like most was the most interesting was the villain who was when he was possessing the lead character, and he kept making him hallucinate or think he was doing something that he wasn't actually doing, and I thought that was the coolest thing about it was because this guy had control over him. And I think he just wouldn't let it go. Every time he thought he was clear of it, this guy would just, I'm right here. I'm right in front of you, whatever. So it was pretty clever. I thought that was the most interesting thing about it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, even when he got back to his own country, it was the voodoo was so far-reaching. He even affected the woman where they was having the dinner, and he was a very powerful man. Susan, over to you.
Great. Yeah, Zakes Mokai or Mokai or whatever. He as Patrod, he was fucking amazing. And there was like mind fuck. I mean, it was all, mental control, mind control, and apparently, that's what the doll is. In voodoo, a doll represents the physical control, and then everything else, all the other stuff in it is to destroy your brain. And that's amazing. And so, yeah. And this was after the revolution. Papa Doc Duvalier and Baby Doc Duvalier had been in power since the 50s, and it was an incredible revolution, like throwing off 45 years or 35 years worth of power and control, and so the proletariat was rising up, and so all the native religions were coming back, and I mean it was a huge deal, and so yeah, I really Paul Guilfoyle was in it, and Paul Winfield, and Paul Winfield, I love hit that actor. He's so good, and he was in so many things. I mean, gosh, he's the greatest. And so yeah, it's probably one of the most. It screws with your head the way Altered State screws with your head. It screws with your head the way, well, really, I'll have to think about that because I mean, for as far as I'm concerned, there aren't very many others that really do a number on your thought process like this one does. Anyway, back over to you, Lee.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, I'd say there's a handful of movies what messes with your head, and not more than that. Who haven't we had? Let me think. Let's go to Tim Curry.
Cheers. Well, favorite most, we've already mentioned the villain. He's a great villain, and how all that mind twisting stuff was very clever, and he was a very interesting, good villain actually. I liked all the hallucination scenes, like the ones at the start where he sees the jaguar. Is it a jaguar? Yeah. Jaguar. And then falls into the hole, and the woman in the bride dress with a snake that comes out of her mouth. There's some very good dreamlike nightmare sequences in this. And I mentioned the fight, and I think that's why I was quite interested about it, where the whole movie, it doesn't feel like a Wes Craven movie, and that's why I was thinking, oh wow, this is different for Wes, and I enjoyed it, and it does get very over the top at the end. It suddenly goes into very different territory. It goes from quite gritty and realistic to this full-blown battle where he must have thought like, all right, I'll do this bit. No, I've got to squeeze this in just to say it's my style. but you know, like when he opens the door and he's flying, and then the guy taking his head off and stuff, the hands coming through the cages or the jails and stuff, and because I almost did. I mean, it was a great fight, but I part of me almost kind of laughed, like I said, when you just see him like bang, 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 throwing him over, and like crashing into the wall, and like I said, I didn't expect that whole torture scene, but well, I mentioned that. But I'll tell you, that was one of the most. I love it when they do a satisfying villain death, and one who deserves it. And I'll tell you, that was one of the best villain deaths ever, where it just comes at his eyes and he just goes, I want to hear you screaming. He just pulled into hell. Done. That was brilliant. That was so good. I thought that's how you beat a villain. Just take away his dick and balls and send him to hell.
Well, yeah. I'll remember that for future reference.
But yeah, so I'd say those are my favorite moments and stuff. Yeah, I think that's it really.
Okay, thanks for that, Nathan. Yeah, I mean, you've said most of the stuff. I mean, the dreams and the hallucinations are so well done. I mean, that one where he's in his bedroom, then suddenly he's boxed in, and then the blood starts rising in the coffin. That's just so chillingly done. It's great photography. I can't even say it. Cinematography, but also when they do use the drug on Bill Pullman's character, and he is buried alive. That's one of the worst things anybody could, go through, because people have been in real life been buried alive because of certain medical things. They've sort of people have thought they've passed, but that is so chilling and horrendous to think. Let's put him in a box, bury him alive. Oh, but yeah, it is a satisfying death for the villain. He is a good villain. It was the police chief, or something like that. Yeah, nasty police. But yeah, I enjoyed watching this. It was it's slightly different from Wes Craven's usual outings, but it's really well done in my opinion. So, any other thoughts on this before we go to final say? No. Okay then. Ethan, final say and score.
I'll give it. I think I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Actually, yeah, I would. I'd give it an 8 out of 10 in my opinion, because it was different from Wes Craven, but I enjoyed it. It was a good story, good effects and stuff like that. Some good characters and stuff, and great actors who I like. And so yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 actually.
Thank you, Ethan. Now, will Jake go higher or lower than Ethan?
Well, I found this very disappointing, so I'm going to give it 5 tarantulas out of 10. But saying that, if you want to go into it expecting a political film, I'd give it an 8, because it is really good with his political side. Not a voodoo.
Okay, Tim, what's your say?
I would say also that it's aged pretty well for a 30+ year movie. It doesn't look that old, and the effects still hold up pretty well for practical effects. So I'd agree with Ethan. I think it deserves it. It's not my favorite movie I've ever seen. Like I said, I kind of had forgotten about it, but it's not a bad movie. It's a pretty original idea. So I'll go with an 8 too.
Yeah, I think
effective film.
Yeah, I think it's one of these forgotten movies, isn't it? It's not a mainstream movie. It's one of these movies. What you hearsay, a friend of a friend says, "Have you ever seen this movie?" It's not one what springs to mind if you want to watch a movie. Right then, who should we go to now? Who haven't we had? Hello. Go on, Susan. You muted still. Go on, you can do it like that.
There we go. Yeah, so I really love this movie. I think it's incredible, and I'll give it a 9 out of 10. And the legends of Voodoo, the serpent is a symbol of earth, the rainbow is a symbol of heaven. Between the two, all creatures must live and die. But because he has a soul, man can be trapped in a terrible place where death is only the beginning. Love that. So before I throw it back to Lee, I just want to know, even though there was narration in this and he doesn't like it, I wonder what he's going to give it. Back over to you, Lee.
Thank you. You say, well, I don't like narration in audio because narration happens in movies all the time. You know, all these detective movies, you know, these Mike Hammer movies and stuff like that. They're always narrated from the detective's point of view.
Ironically, though, you would need it less in a film than you would in an audio.
I know. I just don't get. I know it's one of those things. Just call me weird. Please don't.
Weird.
No, I knew someone would. Go away. Go away. That's yeah. Yeah, I like it. It's a good movie. It's really well done. I mean, the idea of all the soul jars. You know, the keeping all the souls in these jars was just, you know, a great idea. And I'm thinking I might set that up for Geeks members. Yeah, so I keep your soul in a jar until I kick off.
You're gonna have an empty jar then.
Oh, I need a bigger jar for you.
No, that's true. I've never known a bigger soulless bunch.
Ooh, it hurts me there.
I'll be here all week.
Yeah, it cuts me deep. I'm going to give it an 8.5. I think it's an enjoyable movie. But as I say, based on true events, of course. And also as well, I am going on the internet trying to find this powder, and I will be getting some for the members of the Geeks as well. So, and just to make them show up more. And Jake's going to be the first one to.
I don't think that's what you need to set. You need to send the Geeks members, because you don't want them dead. I mean, it's a hell of a thing to watch a podcast of dead people.
Have you watched any of our casts?
How many years has Lee been hosting it?
No. Yeah, 8.5 from me. So that is our little fun review of The Serpent and the Rainbow by Wes Craven. I'd like to thank Susan, Ethan, Tim, and whatever his name is, Jake, for joining me talking this movie. You guys out there, if you like what we do, leave us a comment, or tell us what you liked about this movie. Tell us what you'd like us to talk about in the future. And if you'd want to join our group, leave us a message. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And talking of YouTube, of course, please press the bell notification button. And every time we put up a new video, you'll get a little ding notification just to let you know. How exciting is that? Ooh. So, I could jump off a doll's house. So until next time, folks, we'll, stay safe. We'll be seeing you.